Any other questions at this time? Yes.
You gave an illustration online a while back about the mallet. You're saying the fellow went to the bathroom and never came back?
Yes.
Now, were you charged for that
No.
10 minutes he spent? Or
No.
he gave up on it?
Yeah, he just gave up on you.
When people are coming to the February show and they're going away with merchandise,
Mhm.
then I'd have to bring bags and paper and multiples and...
Yes, but that's very often that's for small things. Buyers don't want to carry around large items. And they do like to kind of hand-pick custom work if it's small jewelry or something like that. And you must replenish your display. You cannot appear at any point in time of the show except for the last half an hour to have a diminished display.
Do you then provide a room where you can have backup?
I do not.
When I think about what...
I do not provide a room. Most people provide that within their display space.
With that in mind, do you recommend a full display versus a sparse presentation? And if you are allowing your buyers to purchase at the show,
Mhm.
do you provide a UPS area to potentially to
After the show is over, we have a freight consolidator. Very often, if you're using Bill Frazier and you're sending your product to Bill Frazier, Bill brings it in 10 or 12 semis to the show, unloads it, and makes sure that it's in your booth, and takes responsibility for it. What were you saying? Excuse me, what was your question? I just lost it.
Do you recommend?
It's one of those mornings.
Yeah, it is. Do you recommend a full presentation of product in the booth versus a sparse presentation? What has the greater impact? And if the customers are buying at the show and they don't want to carry product, do you offer a UPS shipping
Yes,
area?
there's definitely, after the show is over, there's wonderful UPS area, and a lot of people ship merchandise to galleries all over the country so that they don't have to take back work with them. There's also Bill Frazier, who will use a freight carrier and send your display back or your merchandise back to you or whatever you want. Additional merchandise in the booth. You bring your line. Now, I will tell you that there are a lot of people who have more than one person in the booth to write orders. And if they have more than one, themselves and spouse or a partner, so there's two people there from the company to write the orders. And if you're working with two different buyers, you need to do it so you're not stepping over each other. So very often you see people taking their line and putting it over here, and a duplicate copy of the line and putting it over here. That way you've got two specific spaces for people to write orders. That's more comfortably done in a booth and a half very often than it is in a single booth, because you don't have a whole lot of space for that. Jewelers will do the same thing. They'll do the line on this side of the case, and then they'll do the same line duplicated over here so that they can easily work with two buyers at once.
We're bringing our line, but do you feel it makes a stronger impact display-wise to say have one mug that is my line or 10 of this same mug on display as my line?
Depends on how many items are in your line. It really does. Do not have as cluttered a display as you would have for retail purposes. A buyer has to walk by your booth and really know who you are and that you've got it all together and that things were not sloppily done. I mean, for retail fairs, very often people don't obsessively compulsive clean their glass shelves. They don't obsessively compulsively clean their merchandise. At wholesale trade shows, you do all of that. Yeah.
Another thing I say is your chair is for the buyer to sit in.
Yeah, it is not for yourself.
And she used to go to shows in Dallas, and a lot of times the booth they ended up stopping in was the one that had a chair that they could sit down in, and if you can get them to sit down in your booth, the longer they sit there, the bigger your orders.
Yeah. I'll tell you, most trade shows do not allow a chair to be in an aisle. We don't follow that rule. We believe that the chairs ought to be in the aisles Let the buyers sit down. When they sit down, they're right in front of a line of work. They might as well pick up the order pad that's sitting right. They got to pick up the order pad that's sitting on the chair before they sit down. So you might as well get started right away. And it's just an easier way for everything to happen. Yes.
Back to the fireproofing thing. I'd say 99% of the people that come to do your show in February bring carpet. Are
Yes.
there regulations concerning that with fireproofing also?
Never had any problem with carpet. Carpet, I believe, industrially is somewhat flame-proofed. There are a lot of people who use other things for floor covering than carpet. They'll use everything from a sheet to confetti to anything. My definition of a floor covering is something that covers the floor. So you can use I've had people use confetti. Now I don't like confetti because it sticks on the bottoms of shoes and it ends up tracked all the way down the aisle. But I've had people use contact paper. Is a wonderful floor covering. But some shows don't allow it because very often you guys leave it on the floor and then they have to pay somebody to scrape it up. And that becomes a problem. But you can check and just see what the show requirement is.
Who's this Bill Frazier that you mentioned?
Yeah, he walks on water and feeds bread to thousands. He's wonderful. Bill Frazier is at our show. He arrives before our staff does. He starts unloading trucks and getting the decorators in place. And he takes care of all your shipping needs. So you can call him up and say, look, I've got 14 boxes. They're leaving today. I'm UPSing them to your warehouse in Massachusetts. And then he organizes it all and brings it into the show hall. So you don't have to drive in. You can fly. A lot of people like that option. Most people fly to our shows. They do not drive.
What is the average cost for using?
Average cost for using them. You may want to call Bill about doing that, but people generally don't think twice about it. It's probably about the same as the gas and an extra hotel room night that you would have to have. A couple $100 is my guess to get everything right there. And the interesting thing is the drayage is included if you use Bill Frazier. If you ship into the show site UPS and you don't use and you don't go through Bill Frazier, and the decorator brings it in, you may get hit with a drayage charge to carry that box across the hall. So using Bill Frazier kind of consolidates everything and makes the cost lower for everybody.
Not to mention what happens to your work between the dock and your booth as far as boxes.
Very true. Very true. The first year we were in Philadelphia, we had $30,000 worth of theft. Never seen anything like it in my life. They went out immediately. They'd never had a show like ours before with wonderful little pocketable merchandise. They went out and bought 75 cameras and a very expensive camera system and brought in even the FBI for the next year's show in order to make sure that the show ran carefully, well the next year. And now they've got the systems in place. But it was just, the place was a sieve, just a sieve. It was very difficult the first year.
Where is Bill Frazier?
Bill Frazier is in Waltham, Massachusetts, I think. And I'll be glad to give you his phone number after the show. After the seminar.
Just out of curiosity, in a case like that where there were things that never arrived at their proper place, who takes the loss? The artist, the union?
You're responsible for your own insurance to and from show sites.
So Bill Frazier, would that include the insurance, I would assume?
No, you are responsible for your own insurance. Unless it can be proven that it happened not with, I don't know. There are places where the jurisdiction ends and there are places,